Welcome back, Briar Rose Brigade, to my Gothic Grotto. Our Gothic Grotto. Um, Banrose, my co-goat, and me. I'm Thorn. I use he, him, his, and we're on episode 8 of the Midnight Ballroom podcast. You can't hear what I'm actually doing during the intro music. Just like doot doot doot. Just so I remind myself how, like, what the general timing is of that song. Like, I am humming it, but obviously I add the music afterwards. So, we have a very special guest, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, because I planned out the thumbnail before, and the title, because I find that helpful. One sec. Banrose, entertain them while I'm gone. Okay. It's Snek. She is done. My amigurumi Snek, made of sparkly black yarn and red yarn in like these crisscross X's. It's like a corset lacing pattern going up her back, except it's spiraled around. Didn't plan that, but that's how serpents are. And she has button eyes, one red and one gold. And she's based off like an ancient mother snake goddess that I know in my pagan path. Have I mentioned I'm pagan yet? This episode. I'm always pagan, but have I mentioned it this episode? Anyway, she has a tail now. I just finished the X by like doing a little line, and it also spiraled. I don't know why it's doing that. I mean, besides the spiritual reasons, which I also don't know. I don't know the crochet reasons why it spirals around, but it's cool. And now I have my own Snek scarf. I have wanted one of these ever since I saw my friend who I mentioned last time who had the ball python. No, a couple times ago. Once again, it's the last one I captioned, so it feels like last episode. He had an actual, like a living ball python, and would wear it as a scarf because ball pythons are just so chill. Like, it didn't seem to hurt the snake. It was just like, oh yes, a warm tree, and just like slept. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I kind of want a snake I can wear as a scarf. So now I have one. Oh. So, however, I don't need a scarf right now because it is very hot. Oh man, I forgot to open my window before we started. But yeah, California in March. So, Snek is going back to the underworld depths. She can do her Snek thing. Okay. I may have to edit this to make the sound, to lower the volume, so I'm not going to talk while I open the window because it's hard to then you won't be able to hear me talk well if the sound is low enough to not bother people. Fresh air. The night. Wind. Yeah. Also, that wasn't too bad in terms of sound. I expected it to be like the door used to be, but I guess we've replaced the windows in the last 20 years. So they've been oiled in the last 20 years too. It's actually much more recent than that, but yeah. It is time for a coffee break, in case you're wondering, but first, this is not coffee. This is like Diet Coke, but I got it. This is not one of my special mugs, but I got it because of what I'm talking about later. Because I'm talking about my character Tarlin and my other stories, and I feel like she would love unicorns, and I do too. So yeah, this is a mug with a unicorn on it. Not my pink unicorn thermos, but yeah. My primary coffee mug, actually, which has Death Wish coffee, dark roast in it, is my red glazed mug with the face on it. I actually associate this with mother serpent goddess that the Snek is kind of in honor of, so that's why I'm drinking this. Has several meanings for me now, this cup, but that's one of them. Just looking at the temperature on my laptop, it has a little, here's the current temperature type thing. It is 67 degrees Fahrenheit, obviously. I have friends in countries who use Celsius. I wish I could translate it in my head, but I can't. Anyway, so like it's moderate. It actually feels cold with the air coming in. But it's too hot when the window's closed. Maybe I can leave it open a crack. There. Also, I don't know how long I'm going to get to film. Like tonight, I may try again tomorrow if this is really short, or just have a short episode. But my parents are getting back from the airport at some point. In the next little bit, so I'm probably going to have to stop when they get in because it'll be loud. Just in terms of people coming in and unpacking and stuff. So, but in the meantime, some other stuff related to my stories is the shirt I'm wearing now, which used to be a long sleeve shirt, but I cut off the sleeves as I do and made it, and just hemmed them, and it fits me better than it ever did now that the sleeves are off, and my my breasts are also off, so you know. Speaking of, I didn't mean for my second button to come undone, but I'm kind of like, well, you know, it's a look. I kind of joke that since with my mask covering my beard, you can't really, I get misgendered a lot when I'm out and about, which is frustrating because as soon as my beard really started coming in, that's when the masks had to happen. So, but so I was like, well, maybe if I just like let my chest hair show just enough so that people know, like my chest hair and my flat chest, like, so they think twice about mamming me. Anyway, I also have this little necklace, which is a silver butterfly on a black ribbon, which I've had for a long time actually. I got the charm at Joann's or something, or Michael's, and put it on a ribbon. And it is in honor of Tarlin, yes, my character, because her symbol is butterflies, specifically black butterflies, but like, her nickname's kind of butterfly. And the shirt, it's a black button-down shirt, and it has a pattern that's also black, but like in a different fabric, like more velvety, and some like gray patterns on it too. But like the velvety black pattern is a fleur-de-lis, and I think there are raven's wings on the back that are also kind of that velvety. I want to say flocked, but I don't know if that's the right word. But it would be funny if it were, because flock, raven, yeah. So I got this shirt a long time ago too, because it reminded me of a couple of my characters, and their, like, the history of part of my world has a lot to do with ravens and people that have ravens' wings. And especially my character Lorcan, who's the secondary main character. So I'm not really sure how to start talking about all of that. I've been planning it all day, but maybe we will have some more crochet chat first. Speaking of Tarlin, I'm gonna have to untangle all the yarn. It's somewhat better than it was. Like, it's hanging down in mostly just like each tiny ball of yarn where it needs to be in the graph can, but I have to figure out more, like a better system. But anyway, this is a graph can of one of my pixel arts. I'm hoping to add those as crochet patterns into my Etsy shop. And this is Tarlin. You can see her lips now. It actually looks better from a distance than like I've been staring at it up close, but you can actually tell it's someone's lips and nose. And I'm excited about this. Also excited about my okay. I'm just gonna put her down there. Untangle that later. I'm excited about, so I made a business purchase, and it's yarn. I went to Joann's and got some Red Heart Super Saver. I went to the website, and I got some other cheap acrylic worsted weight too, because I couldn't find all the colors that I wanted in Red Heart. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to make 2 of my patterns into graph cans, just as examples that I can show in my Etsy shop, and I'm going to clearly mark them as example projects. This is not what you're buying. Just like, by the way, it does work if you make these into crochet patterns. I mean, if you work these up. I'm still planning to also have a thing where I have like a really casual test crochet, but not in a specific time frame, just like just letting people know, hey, if you want to donate a picture of your finished object to my to be seen on my shop, or if you want to leave a review, talk to me, and you can either get the pattern that you want for free or a discount. Not quite ready to put that on all the social medias yet, but that's something I've been thinking of. So I guess that brings me to this week has been wild. Like I realized that I really want to be a self-employed freelance and content creator type person. Like I feel like I can do a lot of different things to kind of, as a friend told me, once you know how to build a business and market yourself, you can just kind of add something that you want to do, and if that's not working for you or not bringing in revenue, then you can drop that part and just do a different thing that like just like add and subtract bits and pieces. And I already kind of do that. I just need to learn more the business side of it. So I'm joining small business associations, and I'm going to look into taking marketing classes. And it feels like all of these, it feels like a lot of things are clicking into place, because once I realized this, it was like, oh, I can stop dragging myself towards something I don't really want, because like I know for many people having a day job is fine, but I think it might not work for me. And like I'm fine with, especially kind of doing a freelance or a part-time thing that's more like not what I'm most passionate about, but still like is helpful to like support myself. Like I don't mind doing some of that, and I think especially my increasing knowledge of how to code and how to build websites and do graphic design and stuff, like that will probably help a lot in just the freelance side of things. But it feels like I was shooting myself in the foot kind of by forcing myself to think a certain way. Like, oh, well, I have to approach my business life like this, even though I'm not completely enthused about it. And it feels like Gwyn, my patron god, has just really challenged me to look at the truth of what I want and what would work for me. And once I realized, yeah, I actually want this and I'm going to pursue it wholeheartedly, I have all this energy and joy that I didn't know I had, because I felt so beaten down a few weeks ago, and now I'm like raring to go. It's weird. And it feels like all these other things that were outside of my control are suddenly coming in to help, and I feel like I feel like a lot of that is my gods helping me behind the scenes, and like they needed me to realize this thing before they could help in the ways that they knew would be best, or something like that. Gwyn is, for me, one of his faces is the god Minos, who, one of his things is mirrors. And I find that, I think that's really fitting, because you can't lie to yourself or hide from the truth when you're with him. And that's true of Gwyn in general, I think. But so more coffee break. My auxiliary mug is the mysterious mist mousse, the blue glazed one with the white mousse silhouette. And when I chose it, I was like, huh, that's interesting. I have a red and a blue mug, and I feel like red and blue are important in my practice, but I don't, even if I knew why or like what exactly that meant, I don't think I'd be able to explain it to you, because it's probably like some kind of mysterious secret god thing at this point. not like in a high and mighty being, like keeping cool knowledge to myself way, just like sometimes there are things I can't share. It's the mysteries. The mysteries. Anyway. And the moon. I like how it looks like it's right above Banros's head. Like you could put a thought cloud above it, kind of like I did in the last thumbnail. Oh right. Earlier I was thinking about someone, and I was like, they are a bad news bear. And then I looked at Banros and was like, so are you a good news goat? And I feel like he considers that his job, and he takes it very seriously, like to be my helpful goat. And he succeeds quite admirably at it. So we got distracted from crochet chat, but we have more. We have skulls for Hades, for my friend who commissioned me to make this. My friend is not Hades, although he is a friend of the channel. And of my life in general. But anyway, it's a triangle shawl in black yarn with skulls. And it's coming along. I'm on the second skein of yarn now. Out of 6, maybe? Depending on how big she wants it, my friend. The other crochet I've been working on is a little bit embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you. Okay, it was kind of funny on the AltKnots live I was on. She's this spooky crochet YouTuber who is really awesome. Um, I mentioned my new project and I said that I was making shorts because I couldn't find any that I liked on Amazon, so I was like, you know what, I can just make them. And then people kept asking me questions about them, and I was like, oh no. So I just kind of gave vague answers because when I said shorts, I meant boxers. I just didn't want to yell it out in the middle of the stream. I'm making underwear, but I was like, I miscalculated, but I've I've recently been thinking about, okay, what are the parts of my wardrobe that I have a hard time with currently because they're not comfortable for me? I'm like, how can I fix that? So I was like, you know what, I do need some new boxers, and like I was looking for ones that were comfortable and not too expensive and like had a nice um design or lack thereof. Like I I didn't want them to be too busy. And then I found some that are like lounge boxers and they had this almost like picot lace stitch. Like the entire boxer was that, but then there was an under like speedo part, and I was like, I could crochet myself some undergarments that actually look nice and feel comfortable. So I'm trying that out with some yarn, and I figured out how to do a drawstring that won't go across my waist in an uncomfortable way because I just don't like that. Um, and so the obviously these aren't going to be seen by anyone except like people I want them to be seen by and myself. So keep that in mind. This is the waistband, and it's the waistband is black yarn. I used half double crochet ribbing, and then there's a burgundy, I think it's called eyelash yarn. It's very fuzzy, and it's basically just a bunch of interlocking loops. um I crocheted in the I'm doing it in the round mostly, except like in the front, because I mean, even though I'm trans, there are reasons I could use a, a fly, but I mean, I don't bother usually, but having it there feels very affirming. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put in the extra effort to keep the fly in the design. But I did have to look up how to make crochet shorts because I could figure out most of it, but there's just part of the construction that I couldn't quite picture in my head, which is like, so you have the waist and then like two cylinders for the legs, but how, like, regardless of what parts you have, how how do you join them up in a way that's comfortable for the human body? I just was having trouble figuring out what that would look like in the crotch area. So I looked up a video. I think I'm following the one by KnitcroAddict. Seems like a lovely channel. I've enjoyed watching them so far, but I'm just not using the shorts pattern for shorts. Well, they are shorts, just that, you know, underneath other things. Anyway, right, and the last crafting thing I do have is I kind of got majorly nudged by Gwyn to go ahead and start doing that cross stitch pattern that I said earlier I wanted to put onto the back of my shirt, the one of his face. And so I started gridding, like making a grid of thread across the back. Had some setbacks. I think I finally figured out how I want to do it, but I'm just setting it aside for now because I was getting a bit frustrated, and when I figured out the lines that I was making were slanted, Gwyn was like, okay, put it down, just chill, because he's very good at helping me, you know, stop and like take a breather when I need to. But I will show you. I was using my tape measure for lines. This is a huge crochet hoop. It's like bigger than my head. I borrowed it from my sister, who's away at college right now, and I don't think she would mind, but I will put it back on her wall where apparently it's decoration. It was just hanging there like an empty picture frame. Anyway, I needed something where I could see the entire grid that I'm using. And you can't really see it, but I'm using black thread for the gridding. But next since I have decided, I'll just take out the gridding afterwards. I was trying to keep it, but I went and got a fabric pencil from the general crafting stuff and some red thread from my stuff, and I'm going to use that instead of like pins and this tape measure, and it's a process. Since like this shirt, which by the way it's a black tunic shirt, it doesn't have the built-in squares for that cross stitch patterns would usually have, so you have to do extra work to prepare the fabric kind of. And as a first major project, this is a bit much, I realize, but I kind of roll with that. Like, I tend to choose projects that interest and excite and challenge me when I start a new thing. And sometimes I do realize I have to scale it down, or I have to like change what I'm doing. But I have learned to adapt as I go and kind of problem solve through that. So that's nice. Well, my characters and stories. This Tuesday was March 22nd was what I consider the birthday of my world, because it when I was 13, 19 years ago, I just started writing things down in my notebook when I was sitting on the couch, and I immediately started creating words in a language, because a big fan of Tolkien, still am, and I was like, oh, so now that I have a world, I must have a language for it. That's just what you do. That's what is done. So I created a name for this world. First, it wasn't the whole world, it was just like the land I was working on, but now it is the world. And that name is Arlael, pronounced Arlael. That's just so I have an excuse to spell it phonetically in the captions. And it's a combination of the words Arla, which means sky, and Ael, which means sea. And I named it that because the people who spoke that language lived on the shore, so mostly what they saw was sky and sea. It feels relevant for the fact that part of my spirituality is related to like Minoan Crete, which isn't a very sea connected, like it's an island nation in kind of a different way from Britain, I feel like. Obviously very different climates, but like those are the two places where my pagan path is currently springing from, in a way. So anyway, it was quite a while later that I created Tarlin and Lorcan, my main characters of the current story, but I've come to see Tarlin as kind of the face of my world, like the embodiment of Arlael. Within her story, she's not like, but when I break the fourth wall, she is, and like in my experience of her and all of my characters as spirit companions, and they very much feel like my family, like they're part of my soul. They're like close friends I've always had ever since I was inspired to create them, and I do believe that they're real. Like I created them as a writer, but also they're real. It's complicated, but so it feels like reconnecting with my world was kind of necessary for me reconnecting with my, or realizing what I really wanted out of life in terms of like more of a business direction. And I think my gods have been pushing me towards that. Like they've really been calling me back to that world that I have always loved so much. Like as a child, I remember being kind of troubled by the fact that I knew I loved my world more than I loved God, like the Christian God, and I was like, that's probably a problem. But I feel this love and passion and devotion to my world and my stories, and I don't feel it for the Christian God, even though I want to be a good, godly person, and I think I wanted to be a mystic even back then. And I was talking to Jesus, like in a similar way that I talk to Gwyn now, but still, and I think the reason I loved it so much, besides like it being a special the interest, which I recently realized I'm odd. I recently realized, wow, I really am autistic. But so that's why I use that term, special interest. But yeah, those can be so like full of joy and interest for us, and like very life-giving. But also I think it's the way I was connecting to Gwyn and his world without knowing it. And I think I've been asked to reconnect to that world, not only because it makes me happy, but also like my one of my gods told me that it's that the streams of Awen, which is the Welsh word for ins inspiration. So like the streams of inspiration are the quickest and deepest way to cut through the other stories that I might be living in or that might be forced onto me, like, and when I say story, I often mean like worldview or life circumstance, but like the way that people see things and the culture around me. I think what he might have said was, or the god who told me this, it was either Gwyn or one of his other faces. It's the surest way down to his world, the streams of Awen, which is a very Gwyn thing to say. But yeah, that is what I found. And I think I need to take a break because it's about 40 minutes and I just need to regroup because this is sort of, it's deep, bro. I like using the word bro because I'm in a brotherhood of ancient pagan monks. It's hard to explain, but it's, you know. So Brian, if you're watching this, it's deep, bro. Because they're my chosen brother. Anyway, I'll see you later. Lorna would like to inform you that it is the end of part 1. Cheers. You might have noticed I didn't sing for the outro of part 1. It's hard for me to sing when I just feel really raw, like I did while talking about that. And it's interesting, like it felt more vulnerable, and I guess it will again as I'm talking about my stories, than I did when I was talking about leaving my ex. And you know, I am a survivor of domestic violence, so like talking about leaving my ex and the songs I wrote in the album about that story. But I kind of like the fact that the world that I've created and loved for so long like comes from a deeper place even than that, because it says that it's more important than that asshole who hurt me. And also like things that at least for me, things that I love and that make me happy can be a lot more vulnerable. I think because I was taught to sabotage anything that brought me joy because it was probably sinful. Um, yeah, the church I grew up in was not a good one. There are awesome Christians. Um, just like that particular church was not good. So, speaking of singing, earlier I did my first practice session of just playing the piano and not worrying about making mistakes. I played a few songs about that have to do with my character Tarlin. Two of them are ones that she wrote. I mean, I wrote them, but she wrote them, and it took me a while to get her voice right. But then the third one is one that I recently wrote, because the other two are years old. But the third one is one that I recently wrote and have never actually recorded the tune before now. The other two, I hadn't recorded the vocals and like put them out anywhere, but I have released them in instrumental form on my Bandcamp. So I just talked a bit about the songs, and I promised like I was going to talk more about them in this podcast episode. I was planning to. I was really excited about it, but now I'm just like, for some reason, I'm just kind of tired, both physically and emotionally, so it might actually have to wait. Which means this will be a short episode, because I can hear car door slamming outside, and I think that's my parents getting back. So I'll tell you about Arlail a different time, and just to be safe, I'm gonna end this. Thanks for being here with me, and let's dance again at the next midnight.